today with Mick McCarthy, who is our Chief of Operations, looking after all of our programming services centres globally. How are you?
I'm grand.
Good stuff. We're here today to talk about component packaging and how it can benefit the manufacturing industry with the recent opening of our services centre in Turvey in Dublin. Can you start by explaining what tape and reel packaging is and its traditional role in electronics manufacturing or in manufacturing in general?
Sure, yeah. When they evolved surface mount SMT placement of components as opposed to through-hole placement of components, it meant that components could be mounted on both sides of the printed circuit board.
Okay.
And that then allowed the development of different types of components that weren't based on through-hole type of technologies, and packaging such as gull wing, QFP, all surface mount types of technology needed to be packaged in a production ready format. Mm-hmm. So what tape and reeling basically is the placing of these SMT components into carrier tape, obviously with the correct orientation, mm-hmm. and then the sealing of that carrier tape so that it can be wound around 13-inch reels and can be loaded on line side on the SMT machines in a dense way so that they allow the SMT lines to run for longer periods of time. Mm-hmm. If these devices were, in some cases these devices come loaded in trays by the manufacturers, and if they were presented to the line in trays, they would take up a lot more feeder space. Mm-hmm. So the placement of these components into tape and reel allows a greater density at line side and therefore much more efficiency.
Okay, perfect. And how has tape and reel packaging evolved to accommodate items outside of electronics? Yeah,
so the whole idea of loading machines which basically automatically place the components required for whatever type of assemblies are out there in the market has evolved beyond the electronic space, mm-hmm. Where we now have lots and lots of customers who make very small pieces of metal used in heat sink type applications, various types of applications where repeatability and density is required. So we now find ourselves making special tape for all sorts of different industries now, and it's kind of encouraging for us because it's a new business development line for us, and lots of our new requirements in the packaging side are for non-electronic type applications.
Okay.
In addition to that, lots of our business has evolved into the automotive electronics manufacturing, and you get a lot of clips and reasons for retaining your loaded printed circuit board in different positions in the car, so that we see a lot of clips requirements and in the millions, so it's become a new opportunity for us. Okay. And we see applications coming in the medtech side, mm-hmm. we see pharma type of applications coming along. So the method of mounting small components in carrier tape is becoming pervasive.
Okay, so you've mentioned heat sinks and you've mentioned sensors in the medical space. What kind of applications do they go into?
Okay, so in the heat sink space, I recall a very high volume carrier tape opportunity we had where the heat sinks were going into the handle of a hand drill.
Okay.
And so within that hand drill there would have been small PCBs, and there would have been a requirement to remove heat, mm-hmm. from that application. So okay. The appliance manufacturer contracted with a metal basher that, mm-hmm. could make these devices, manufacture these devices very, very accurately so that they could be placed in the handle of this to dissipate the heat That's one application for.
So
these things.
in the tape and reeling of that, do we need to worry about the orientation or anything like that?
In most cases, orientation is not important in this space.
Okay.
Sometimes getting it upside down or downside up is important because the top and the bottom of the component would look different. But you usually get rectangular or square type of pieces of metal there, so you just need to accommodate whatever your customer's requirements are.
Okay, and the sensors side of things?
Yeah, so in the sensor side of things, I can think of applications like glucose monitoring systems that are worn by people and that are monitoring these things either via Bluetooth or via Wi-Fi, and they're either Bluetooth or wirelessly, where they're transmitting the signals back to a central location.
Okay, so we're talking about a really wide range of applications here for component packaging into a wide range of industry verticals.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, how does the custom tape and reel packaging contribute to improving automation and efficiency in various manufacturing processes?
Yeah, this is a drum I've been beating for years. When you go into an SMT plant that may have 10 lines, what you often see is the SMT process, the chip shooters working away there, and at the end of the line you will have crews of people who now need to attach I/O to the boards. So that is the connectors and the lumpier type of components that are required to allow the board to communicate with other circuits. And what we've managed to do is speak to a number of our clients and help them with their efficiency by helping them to put those connectors, etc., into tape and reel. Now, there's a number of issues when you decide to do that. One is the ability of the SMT machines or the chip shooters to actually pick the component from the tape. So what you need to do is you need to find a flat surface on the connector or whatever the device is. And in some cases, we actually help them by putting down Kapton tape onto the placement area. So it enables them to then pick the component and then remove the Kapton tape once the component is placed.
Okay.
That in turn then saves them manpower, and oftentimes if they're working a 3-shift system, you can often see 18, 21 people saved at the end of an SMT line, literally by just helping them to mount the components in a fashion that they're able to present them to the chip shooters.
Okay, so automatic instead of manual labour.
Absolutely,
there at the end of the line. Okay, very interesting. Can you explain the process of designing custom tape and reel solutions for unique or different products or devices? So, can you go deep? What can you do different shapes in the tape?
Sure. Yes, we can. And we have a full capability to design pockets within the geometries available of tape. So in general, the widest tape we use in our process is 88 millimeters. So we can go from 8 millimeter tape right up to 88 millimeters. In general, there are some constraints on the depth of the pocket, and that will basically be dictated by the size of the reel that you put them on.
Yeah.
So if you've got a component that requires a pocket that's, let's say, 18 to 20 millimeters deep, that then restricts the number of components that you can wind onto a 21-inch reel. So there are some practicalities around this, but in many, many cases, we are supplying, 20 millimeter deep pockets with components that are mounted on 88 millimeter tape.
Okay, excellent. I have seen at Christmas time some sweets, tape and reels for giving out at various events, so it applies to everything really. So what advice would you give to companies considering custom tape and reel solutions for their products?
Well, they really need to look at their intended method of manufacturing building those components into their manufactured product. And if they have an automatic process for building their appliance or their equipment, look at how they can introduce efficiencies into the process. Look at the various steps in their manufacturing process to see, can they automate them? Can they digitize them? And in a lot of cases where companies would have had manufacturing or traditional manufacturing process, just to give us a call and speak to one of our guys, one of our engineers, who can help and speak to the efficiency or the feasibility of putting these devices in tape. We have a design function, a research and development function in company, which enables us to design the correct pocket for the component. And sometimes you can imagine these components are quite complex. These components have their own requirements. Oftentimes the contacts on these components need to be held separately in the pocket so that they're not making contact with the carrier tape themselves. And we have the ability to do all that in-house, and then to design the pocket, to test that the pocket is working properly. And we have 3D printing type capabilities to produce mock-ups of the pocket from the drawings, and then to actually physically fit the components in there, just to make sure that what we design is ultimately going to work.
Okay, so there's a process there, so people can get in touch, and we can advise, or our engineers can advise them on the best solution. Okay, that's great. Thanks a million for talking to us today, Mick.
Okay, thanks a lot.